what I'm trying to say.
It's interesting that you've raised the matter of integrity. We want to get to that now. And we are told right now that governors are afraid.
That they have all reasons to be afraid.
It is. Senator, I want to come in on this as well. That it is very easy.
Remember when I was here last?
Yes.
I said, wacha kupayuka payuka. Just look for a good lawyer.
Who are you telling that to?
Those guys.
I hope not Zinzi. Those guys.
Those guys. There are many. They're coming. You know all these dirty things that we do as MPs. We promote ourselves to become governors. What you are doing with CDF, you think you can do it at the governor level, my friend.
So we should see more governors being
they will come, yes,
arrested?
Of course.
Is it on merit, the investigation, or because there is a concern, and I'm told this week, possibly, or the Standard claims that the Council of Governors could form a legal team to explore the possibility of taking a petition before the High Court's a particular division to seek an interpretation on whether governors...
Isn't it?
Let me finish. Whether governors should step aside like other public officers before they are charged with economic... And this has affected a county that you used to lead.
My friend, I told you here another day, Wahiga, a certain MP in the UK, no, a minister, was late for 3 minutes and he resigned. For 3 minutes. In this country, nobody resigns. How can you face charges of stealing from the county, yet you sit in the county?
So do you think Waititu should resign until proven innocent?
I don't discuss Kiambu. That's another story, a story of another day. But how do you preside over the executive authority of a county and you as yourself are a suspect in a court of law? Criminal suspect.
Innocent until proven guilty.
You take time to clear yourself and go back to work. Yes.
That should be the scenario. That should be the case.
Senator, what are your thoughts on this? Remember, this is a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. Surely, if I step aside, in the eyes of my constituents, that's... I think how will you clean your name up?
Number one, I don't support that. I don't support, because if you read the judgment of Mombi Ngugi, that is what I think in law they call opta dicta, or what is it? Whereby it is a by the way. You know, it was not... the matter which was before the judge was really to consider the bail term of Governor Kasaine. It wasn't whether a state officer should step aside. So I think, in all fairness, governors have a right to go to court and challenge that, because there are things which, when a judge is giving his or her decision, he says, by the way, I think this should happen. You know, it doesn't mean that it should form part of the decision or the orders made by that court. Number two, there's a very interesting, you know, sort of like path we are trying to shape up, whereby the fact that you've been accused of embezzling funds, you are considered guilty. You know, that is wrong, because my good friend and leader of the minority in the Senate once said that what goes around comes around. You know, the state sometimes eats their own children. And that is a fact. So if you support that today, tomorrow it will be you. So I think we have to be very careful. I support the DPP 100% in the war against Graft, but I think we have to be fair. The way you treat a state officer versus a public officer are very different. A state officer is elected by the people. You know, if you look at someone who is appointed as a cabinet secretary, that's different, because you've been appointed by one person. But here, you've been elected by an entire constituency. What we need to do is to come up with legislations that stipulates on what you need to do to step aside, you know, but not just to come in and say they must step aside.
So where does this leave the deputy?
Well, I think, you know, like now in the issue of what do you call it, of Kiambu, I would probably support the deputy, you know, coming up if the court has asked the governor to step aside, so that there is no leadership vacuum. You know, the people of Kiambu still need to be able to get services delivered to them. And there are certain things that you cannot do without having, you know, a CEO figure to be able to lead the county. I think the biggest problem we have in this country is that we're very sensational. Our public officers are becoming sensational. You know, cabinet secretaries are giving themselves powers that they do not have, you know. And it is a very, very, very bad precedent that we are setting.
A bad precedent that we are setting.
It is very
one last question before I come to you, SG.
Let me,
you spent considerable time in America.
Yes.
a country that some would say Kenya admires in terms of some of the things that they do.
Mature democracy.
When you see that's why I use the word some. When you see governors stepping aside because of allegations of infidelity, allegations of racism committed when they were young boys and girls and so forth, is that a standard we should aspire to, or is that the sensational type you're talking about?
I think it behooves you as a person who's got the fiduciary responsibility to be able to prove that to the people. That if you accuse me of having embezzled funds, it should be a moral question where I will step aside, investigate me. I think it should be something which we can develop legislation that will lead leaders in this country to be able to take that path. You know, where if you come in and tell me I've done A, B, C, D, and for me to prove that I've not, I'm willing to do what? To give you that opportunity, you know, for you to be able to carry out your investigation. But we need to set a time frame. Okay. The problem is this, with the way our what do you call it? Our justice system has been on a gravy train. Some of these matters may never be considered, you know, they may never be, what do you call it? They may never have a finality in them. So I think what the Chief Justice said, that if a hearing of a corruption matter begins, it will be heard continuously to the end. If we set that in law, to make sure that there is no business where somebody goes and say, oh, the judge is not there today, their file is missing, you know, we must set those standards. So if you compare Kenya and the West, they have taken time to be able to set that. And it's a moral authority, it's a moral duty. You have to say, no, I cannot lead you. I cannot be your servant
until I've cleared
this matter. So, Honorable Sifuna, just picking it up from what the Senator is talking about, integrity. Should integrity, should we be looking at it more of a personal characteristic vis-a-vis just a law statement within our Constitution under Chapter 6? Should we look at it more of a personal statement? Because yesterday, even as we speak, Waititu was in Kikuyu on the ground telling individuals, telling the residents, I may not be working physically from my office, but I'm still allowed to work in other offices within the county.
Yeah, first of all, it is one of the, I think it was the #1 issue in that MOU between Raila and Uhuru, that as a country we lack national ethos. What is the national ethos of this country? What are Kenyans known for? If you go to Dar es Salaam, for instance, or any other foreign capital and you say you are Kenyan, other than being
and that's not captured in the 2010 Constitution, what we stand for?
No. Our national ethos is something else. It is those questions that you are asking, like, who are we as a people? What values do we consider important? Do we carry those values ourselves? What would move a person, say a leader in the US, to say, because I lied to the public, or I've been caught in a web of infidelity, or even some very personal matters like those.
Sonko is trying to bring up, what would for another day.
Forget those antics by Sonko. In fact, he is a smudge on the national conscience, so he's not somebody you can point to as an exemplar for anything. So the point I was making is this. We would aspire, we would like to come to that place where other people are, that there's some degree of shame in public life, and that if you go against the expectations, you take it upon yourself to step aside. But the considerations in this particular matter, and I don't think that the High Court asked or sent the governor to step aside. The order was for them not to be able to access the office because it is a matter of protecting whatever little evidence might be left there for investigators to collect as the case continues. And I have said here that you must balance all the rights that have been given the Constitution as well. You don't read one section of the Constitution like our brothers are doing and forget that there are others. So the presumption of innocence has not been taken away by anyone. We have heavy constitutional questions to answer, and that is why I support, let the governors go to court, let the court have be seized of that matter and give an interpretation, because there's also the public expectation. And I understand the public, because the Kenyan public is extremely angry. It has provided fodder for all sorts of things, so that in our quest to satiate that public anger, sometimes these rights take secondary consideration. So people, for instance, I was saying on a show I was in recently, that Kenyan people are just happy enough to hear that a governor has spent a weekend in the cells. So they will support those Friday arrests, because they also suspect that this case will drag on and probably this governor will never be convicted. That anger is satiated by just somebody hearing so-and-so has been denied bail. They forget that we are the ones who voted for this constitution that guaranteed bail for everyone. You know, previously, there were certain crimes if you were accused of, bail was not an option for you. We are the ones who said that we want bail to be applicable for everyone. Then you see Kenyans getting so angry that somebody has actually been given cash bail. So we need to balance all these things. The public is very angry. Part of it I have postulated that is funded by the media. So for instance, I personally believe the media has created a fertile ground for this discussion on constitutional amendment to so-called Punguza Mizigo, because every time in the headline it is MPs have added themselves salaries, and it is always a headline. They have come up with new proposals to add perks to themselves, and every time the public reads about those things, they are very angry. So you will see right now, many of the people who even support this initiative, they are just angry. They don't want to go into a discussion of the contents. They just know it's Punguza Mizigo. Then you ask them, do you know the budget of parliament? How much is it? So if you remove the entire parliament, how much money are you saving? They are just following this noise that they are hearing. Oh, Punguza Mizigo, Punguza Mizigo. They don't know the details.
So, Honorable Kafogo, very quickly, on this issue of Kiambu, where does this leave the county when it comes to county duties? Today, being a Monday, at 8 a.m. when the office is open, what do county duties look like?
Confusion is everywhere in Kiambu. Confusion, a lot of confusion. I don't want to speak much about, you know, I don't like to speak about Kiambu, because you may say I'm a jilted lover, or I am speaking because I'm not in office. But it's a sad affair. If you look at the perspective of corruption in the private sector, for example, if it was Kenya Breweries, for example, and the MD has been accused of siphoning money from Kenya Breweries through some conduit back to his account, to his wife and daughter or something, what happens to the board? They quickly meet and say, Kando, you are under investigations. You have not even been charged. You are under investigations. That one reason should be able to tell you what we should be doing in public life. And what the Senate has just said, if we can expedite hearings in terms of, you know, criminal proceedings, so that, like in the Western world, you're accused on a Monday and 5 weeks later, you're either set free or sentenced. If this can happen in Kenya, then you know that the worry of you being out of office is neither here nor there, because you know it will take 5 weeks. And I'm sure some of these guys don't want 5 weeks. They know that they will be convicted.
Fair enough.
You understand what I'm trying to say? They know they will become, so they would not want, they just want to hang into. How do you go and tell the public out there that I've not been charged with stealing? It is a process of tendering that is under question, not me. And again, they stopped me from going to that building. Only that building. So I am governor and I must continue operating you know, again, Kenyan masses, please wake up. Who do you elect? You understand?
Although you are elected previously.
You see what I'm saying? I've been elected many times.
Yes, many times.
But sometimes I think we need some test of some nature, some shrinks to deal with some of us. Isifuna, does he have the capacity to become an MP? Does he have what it takes? Because surely when you ask, sometimes I don't want to say I'm Kenyan when I'm out there. Somewhere from Africa. You know, you don't want to say Kenyan because of the behavior that is attached to ourselves when we are, you know, when the whole world is looking at us.
What are they saying?
We are crazy.
We are crazy. That's a good place to take a break. But now, Kango, you have first dibs when we come back. I know you have a lot that you want to say.
Look at what you put in
last
the paper.
sentence.
Look at these things.
Last sentence.
Look at these things. What are people saying out there?
What's this? Sonko to shame VIPs?
No, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
The bedroom matters. What have they got to do with what is happening now?
You will come back and
Please
tell us.
don't come to my burial and don't
Yet we are
don't do-
breathing,
okay.
we are breathing dirty air. Instead of dealing with the garbage, you're bringing garbage to the news.
Even though we know
Sure.
there are children out there who need money for school fees.
What's
and
Yeah,
your
but that's not
business?
his job.
What's your
That's not your
business?
job. You are supposed to be dealing with pollution. You are running a feature about how dirty Nairobi
But
is.
deadbeat
and
dads
that's what
means
he's supposed to do.
we have children
There
who are not fathered.
institutions.
Okay.
There are institutions to deal with. We did not elect you
So
to
what do you
bust
want us to
people's
do with the single
love
mothers?
triangles.
What do you want us to do with the single mother?
All right,
Okay.
all right,
Fair enough.
gentlemen.
We'll
We'll
ask
come
the
back.
Single
ladies will be
single
on
mothers.
tomorrow. We'll
Yes.
ask them. Let's take that break now. We'll be right back.